The Dada Chronicles by Lord Khalif Shakil. Narrated by Tamisha Harper. Chocolate Rain Concepts. If you think it, we speak it. The Dada Chronicles, a master plan to regain control of our communities, become a Dada black man, and put down the ways of the fool. We have to seg now. This book will be what we brothers call gutter. It will be brutally honest, and at times vulgarity will be present. I say this simply because, to my dismay, most of our black youth are not listening to things said to them nicely. It's a damn shame that many of us have to dumb down our teachings before some of these simple-minded ninjas decide to pay attention to the truth that we speak. I have been fortunate enough to live through 5 decades, and I can honestly say that we are more fucked up mentally, spiritually, socially, and economically than we've ever been. Sure, there are wonderful advancements in the economic and political fields. However, these examples are not even close to the norm in the black community. We are wasting time in our communities applying old practices to new problems. It's like trying to pound an 18th century round peg into a 21st century computer app. Many of us are committed to an outdated educational system, a punitive legal system, and a destructive religious system. We either can't or won't step outside of this historical nightmare that has confounded so many of us for centuries. We look at the few brothers and sisters that crawl through a mile of shit to get where they are and try to sell that bumpy-ass journey to our children today. We keep doing the same dumb shit every day and asking Jesus to fix our broken and shattered world. If Jesus is watching, I'll wager that he's tired of our stubborn asses. He clearly is not listening to our community prayers because they keep going unanswered. He may be working on some of your personal prayers, but his average is not too good when it comes to our communal hopes and dreams. It seems to me that he's on a permanent vacation. I say this because we pray daily for help and shit never changes. Prayer without works is fruitless. We walk out of the house each morning with no plan for the future except a rather simple-minded goal of getting through the day. We have traded in our slave quarters for rundown government housing projects. We are no longer running from the slave catchers. We are now running from the police. We have gone from being sold away from family by the slave master to self-abandonment of our own wives and children. Let's keep it real. The black community is currently fucked up, family. If we ever plan to do something about it, we must first stand in truth. Let's call a spade a spade. That's why we always hear people say that they are trying to get out of the ghetto. We never hear them say, I want to improve the ghetto. It's why we see our professional athletes and entertainers, once they get that big money deal, moving as far away from us as possible. No one wants to live with us. Hell, we don't even want to live with us. I'm not saying these things because I like to run down black folks. It's quite the opposite. I love being a chocolate soldier more than anything. It's simply that I'm weary of watching so many of our children acting like motherfucking banshees in public and celebrating their ignorance on YouTube, Facebook, and World Star. I love living around my people. I want us to come together and fix our problems for the future of our children. Somehow, in the 1960s, we got off track as a people, and we have not gotten back on that path of righteousness, upward mobility, and cultural pride. There was a time when we believed in being our brother's keepers. We knew that if we had to live a good life and do quality work, or the next black man, woman, would not even get an opportunity. There was a time when we knew that the government was not going to help us, so we did the shit ourselves. Black Wall Street and the Harlem Renaissance were black economic movements that showed black communities at the peak of our cultural superpowers. These examples happened at the height of Jim Crow America. We knew we had to do it alone, and damn it, and that's just what we did. We have a history of intellectual brilliance, cosmic understanding, and cultural determination. However, in the 1960s, the new black man started to reach for different goals. He wanted to spread his wings and join the rest of America's decadent society. We wanted to go to the toilet with good white folks. We wanted them to recognize us as equals. We wanted to do their porn movies and become Hollywood famous. The truth is, we wanted the American dream. We wanted to be like Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn in the movies. Now, my first question is, who the fuck are they to be equal to? Why was it so important for our parents to have the white man's approval? Please don't pretend that what I'm saying is a lie. I get the reasoning and drive behind equal treatment under the law, a prerequisite in life which makes sense to all of us. I also know the desire to frequent any establishment that one's heart desires. I certainly don't question the motivation to have full access to America's system. With that being said, I guess the real question is, why did our mothers and fathers forsake all of the successful black businesses that we owned during the Jim Crow era in order to have access and social acceptance of that great white father? Once we gained access to white-owned stores, we abandoned our own entrepreneurs. We were manipulated by that one-eyed trick box called TV. It was rather ingenious of them to bait blacks with the world to dream of joining. This vision augmented the natural desire blacks once had to build up their own communities. We bought into that fake world of a White House with a picket fence. The 1970s and 80s black man wanted to be a full member of the American experience. We wanted to live next to our white brother in Pleasantville, USA. The problem with falling for that false reality is that while we were taught to chase that make-believe world of racial equality and a transparent society, the wealthy sons of slaveholders were changing the rules while we were distracted. Yes, we were bamboozled and never saw it coming. While we were trying to integrate into what we thought was a democratic system of one man, one vote, the rich man was co-opting the whole goddamn process by making America a capitalistic economic engine that he had the only set of keys to. He made that one man, one vote concept obsolete by pouring money into the political process. In the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, the court ruled that corporations have the First Amendment right to spend as much unlimited and unreported money as needed to influence elections. This is shopping democracy. The moment the wealthy were allowed to inject unlimited financial contributions into political candidates, the game was over. The super rich co-opted the power of one man, one vote. Now, politics are about raising money and controlling the message. It seems that we are always 2 steps behind Uncle Sam's sneaky ass. We were fighting for a fair vote while he was making it difficult for the vote to mean anything. We cast our votes into a rigged system where the wealthy own the politicians. Money gives America's super rich the power to handpick the candidates, which ensures that whomever we vote for will be a puppet in the political game. It's simple mathematics. The super rich select the needy politicians, sort of like making a political Frankenstein monster. The fact is that the powerful will give cash money to super PACs, political action committees, that augment the views of the young politician. This process will change a politician forever. Dividends will often co-opt the dreamer. He will go from wanting to change the world to changing zip codes. This process also makes the politician rich. The newly rich politician becomes far more interested in maintaining his new material wealth than about making good policy or changing people's minds. Now, a rigged system still needs a few components in order for it to work properly. Greed and materialism are the fuel that make the system work for the wealthy. This corrupt government manipulates everyone with money. Our love for material shit exposes our weakness and makes the working man vulnerable to the whim of the ruling class. Politics and capitalism work hand in hand to keep the government running and the poor man in his place. There are two separate groups that power the rise of the rich and stagnation of the poor. Those two groups are the producers and the consumers. Of course, the rich are the producers, while the poor are the broke-ass consumers. The rich control the communities that we live in. This book is designed to help us regain control of our communities. Its purpose is to challenge the black community's social norms and ask the black man to come home and take a stake in the future of our people so that we and all mankind can rise. We have to start supporting our own businesses. We spend 90 cents out of a dollar with the very people who shit on us. We have to boycott those companies that take from our community and never look to improve our standard of living. We must understand that by selling us their goods, the rich and bigoted are able to buy political favor and police muscle. Echoing the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, trust me when I say that muscle and influence are the iron-footed oppression used to keep us disenfranchised. If we didn't know then, we should know now that our economic spending power is the best way to restore the black man to a position of authority in his own community. We must become producers of goods and services because production is the lifeblood of capitalism. The simple truth is that some are producers and others are consumers. For the system to work, there has to be social guinea pigs spending money like drunken sailors. We, brothers and sisters, are those guinea pigs. Blacks spend more money per dollar outside of our own community than any race in the world. That recurring practice is economic suicide. Corporate America loves to sell us their shit, and we love to buy it. The unspoken understanding is that after we buy it, they want us to take the material junk that we've purchased from them back to our side of the tracks. That way, they can count our money in peace while we show off the new brand name shit to our friends. It's crazy, this business of branding. When we were slaves to the white man, they branded us to show ownership. Today, we brand ourselves in the white man's shit, and we do this of our own volition. We brag about the shit that we buy from them and the ridiculous amounts of money that we throw away to get it. Buying from them seems to be something we do to gain acceptance or to feel better about ourselves. This infatuation with obtaining social acceptance of whites has tremendously plagued us. Black America's focus in the 1960s and 70s upon full integration into the white mainstream has had a devastating effect upon our children. That's right, our children are walking around these streets with a ridiculous attitude. They are disrespectful, ignorant, selfish, incompetent, egomaniacal, and braggadocious. To be honest, many of them are fucking embarrassing. The worst part of this is that our children became that way because of poor supervision from their parents and grandparents. Yes, while our mothers and fathers were out in this world trying to appease white folks and attempting to get their piece of the American dream, they lost their children. Thus the Dada Chronicles, a master plan to regain control of our community. This book was written as a wake-up call to the slumbering brothers and sisters. Its purpose is to offer the black man a new way of viewing the world while conducting his business in this new century. We need a positive new direction based upon our past cultural successes, coupled with the majority paradigm shift politically, economically, mentally, spiritually, and socially. This paradigm shift is drastically needed for the 21st century black man. We have to stop a lot of the bullshit that we are doing to each other simply because it's the easy way to get by. We have to abandon many of the political ideologies of our forefathers and adopt new strategies for the sake of our children. This book is titled The Dada Chronicles because we are going to need our brothers to come to the reality that these cop motherfuckers are trying to take our children out. We have to stop thinking like 19th century pastors that want to pray away all of our problems. We have too many prayer vigils for our children being killed by law enforcement and black thugs in the community. Instead of these mass prayer parties, We should be making it clear that to kill our unarmed children without provocation will result in dire consequences and repercussions for the perpetrators. Family, we are being moved around in our communities like pawns on a chessboard by wealthy landlords with sadistic plans for our babies. There are sophisticated models that our government created to predict how many of our children will go to prison, to college, or to the cemetery. We need to start teaching completely different concepts to our children, and we are going to need sucker-free black men in our communities, men who want to take ownership of our communities by helping to improve them. That means that a lot of you snake-ass niggas are going to need a new hustle and a new playground for your filth. We need to stop educating slaves. We need to be enlightening the next Don Dadas. A Don Dada is a triple OG, a revolutionary player of the game of life. He pimps the enemies of our communities, which means he does not waste time pimping $5 hoes because he's too consumed with pimping corporate CEOs. Khalif Shakil. I'm tired of us marching and saying no justice, no peace, because believe me, we can get some justice with the right pearl-handled peace. Chapter 1. Stop all this ineffective marching. It's not easy to tell black people to stop marching. It has become our thing. We are legendary for coming out in large numbers to protest an injustice. Protest is not just the black way, it's the American way. People of little means and less political power strike out to change a law or bring attention to a terrible miscarriage of justice. It all seems so righteous. But think a minute. Does anything of substance ever happen? The use of social media has shed light on many of the evils that were being perpetrated for years by law enforcement on the black community. Blacks have been saying for centuries, since we were brought here on those rat-infested ships, that we were being beaten and killed by law enforcement for little or no reason. Most of white America did not want to believe that these stories were true. It took social media to show our good white brothers what Latin, Native, and African Americans have been saying for years, that the police are the biggest gang of niggas in the system. I say nigga because I want you to know that, to me, it means ignorant motherfuckers. Those bastards in blue are worse than the mob because they can kill you in broad daylight and get away with it. Rodney King was the first case in this country when cops were caught on tape whipping the shit out of a black man for no reason. We all know how that case was handled by California. They moved the jurisdiction out of the black community to Simi Valley, where white jurors let the cops off. It would later take the federal authorities and $100 million of property damage to get a new trial and a weak-ass conviction. Today, we see black men, women, and children shot and killed on video. We see black women arrested and jailed for no apparent reason. The most recent phenomenon is that we are finding out from law enforcement that many of our sane brothers and sisters somehow go mentally insane once they are behind bars. Law enforcement wants us to believe that our loved ones decide to commit suicide before family can bond them out of jail. The Sandra Bland story is a mountain of legal bullshit told to the black community. The police released a video of the initial arrest where a car vanishes from the screen. The tape was obviously doctored. Sandra Bland is later found dead in her cell from what authorities call a suicide, although there is no history of mental or emotional sickness in her life. The local coroner's office issues a death certificate saying she hung herself. The county pathologist also confirms this fishy finding. How could they possibly think that we would believe any motherfucking thing that they say after seeing how she was treated during her arrest? Couple that with the Dr. Jail videotapes, and blacks are suspicious of a cover-up and judicial conspiracy. It's so insulting to have to listen to the weak-ass excuses that the police give for the murders of our loved ones. In the cases of Chavis Carter, Jesus Huerta, and Victor White III, all three men were arrested and handcuffed by the police. They were all placed in the back seats of 3 different police cars in 3 different states, North Carolina, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So how do all three commit suicide by gun while cuffed up in police custody? Once again, these unbelievable findings are supported by the local coroner's office. I think it's only just that we inform people that in most jurisdictions, the coroner is not a forensic pathologist or general practitioner. Most are elected officials with no medical training whatsoever. That's right, via election, you can be a ditch digger today and a certified coroner tomorrow. Why do we continue to listen to these whack-ass excuses? We know that these are outright lies being told to pacify us. We know that the purpose is to shift the light of observation away from the potential criminal acts that have taken away our loved ones. The seemingly endless list grows longer each day. Look what happened to Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Freddie Gray, and Walter Scott. Murders of unarmed black men at the hands of law enforcement officers. The case of Kendrick Johnson is the most puzzling of all cases. His body was found rolled up in a gym mat 22 hours after he was announced missing. The circumstances of the case are so murky and convoluted that at times it seems no one can make sense of it. So what do? We have marched, cried, begged, and pleaded with the authorities to do the right thing. We came up with the new slogan, Black Lives Matter. The white man countered that with the slogan, All Lives Matter, which completely misses the point and meaning of the phrase Black Lives Matter. We appeal to the federal authorities, in each case forgetting that the feds are the source of a great many of our communal problems. Listen, family, this is one area we must change. The way we view the world around us and handle things ourselves. The Constitution of the United States allows for us to protect ourselves. Why are we asking for someone else to do this? Why do we need to march when each one of our children has a father? We are the only community in the world that expects their enemy to police themselves. The time has come to defend your home, black man. If someone shoots your unarmed child, he does not deserve to walk around free in America. These men are killing our children and beating the cases. We also have sawed-off gangbangers in our own mess killing each other and catching innocent bystanders in the crossfire. They, too, are enemies to our collective. Stop asking your enemy to do your job as a motherfucking man. The moment we start protecting our children by balancing the scales of justice, we will see a great change of attitude in those wreaking havoc on our streets. Once we do that, shit will change. I promise you, fewer people in our community will be shot unarmed. Blacks have listened to these weak-ass liberal ideas on gun control for years, hoping that whites would put their pop toys away. Well, it's not going to happen, so stop bitching and go get certified to carry a gun. I guess we're going to have to bring back the Wild West before America remembers why guns were taken out of society in the first place. Right now, crooked cops and bullshit niggas are running amok on our streets, and the black man is crying like a punk to the feds, asking for help, which we know will never come. We're caterwauling while our white counterparts are intelligently loading up on ammo and saying, "Don't bring that shit here, nigga." To be honest, death is not a race issue. It's a real issue, and we're bringing words to a gunfight, family. I want to live in a world without guns and gun violence. But that's Pleasantville and Hollywood. It's not real. It does not exist. I want all mankind to respect one another, but we know that a small segment of all societies are criminal-minded. Why are we trying to talk first? If you want to stop a country from bombing your shit, then you need to have equal retaliatory power. It's called MADD, Mutually Assured Destruction Dummies. In this country, a significant segment of our law enforcement agencies are thugs. So, we must begin to rethink how we are going to protect our families from bad people who crave to do violent acts. I know these people and the way that they think because in my youth I committed a violent act. I was housed among the underbelly of our society for years, and I can honestly say that many of the police and guards that I came across daily were as crooked as some of the men that they were supervising. Evil hides in some of the most unsuspecting places. We ask for a world without fear of a violent death from a neighbor, friend, family, or a cop charged with keeping the peace. We've been receiving the short end of the stick for years. Now, imagine the day when cops and thugs are more afraid of the repercussion from killing an unarmed black man. On that day, we'll receive better policing and fewer gun-hungry perpetrators brandishing firearms around our children. I salute our fathers from the deacons of defense, real black men to celebrate. Chapter 2. Love the one you're with. I spent a large part of my youth on the stupidest mission. I was obsessed with chasing coochie. I cannot think of any other quest in life undertaken by myself and so many of my brothers which was a greater waste of time. How many women does one man have to conquer before he realizes that it's just pussy? Pharaoh Pepe I once said, "Heaven lies between the legs of a black woman." I concur with that phrase. If heaven is supposed to be a place of bliss, then in all of my life I can't imagine anything that compares to the love and warmth of a good black woman. I have come to believe that a night of rest wrapped in the legs of an elegant black queen has no equal on this planet. This is why I must say to our younger brothers, love the one you're with. Learn that lovemaking is more than the feeling that you get from the thrust of your shaft. Lovemaking begins each morning with a glance at the figure of your chosen queen as she lies next to you. Love is the gentle kiss that you give her on the cheek as you begin your day. Love is the commitment that we make each day to make life easier for her. Making love is an art form. It's a desire to create a comfort zone for that special woman that you lay down with at night. Once you have created that comfort zone, it is imperative that you do whatever it takes, without losing your dignity, to keep her within that zone. How many of us have taken the time to think about the world that our women are forced to excel in? A world that is controlled by less than 1% of the population. A small fragment of the population that does not give a shit about our women. What these rich motherfuckers think of our mothers, sisters, and daughters is simple. Fuck 'em. These wealthy shapeshifters have created a world where the black woman is considered the bottom of the food chain. A world where the social programs are designed to keep her in the ghetto, poor, pregnant, and depressed. She is labeled as a cum dump. Unfortunately, for many black women, her contribution to life has been reduced to being a baby-making machine that gives birth to the next generation of slaves for the America's prison industrial complex. We have taken our eye off the ball, brothers. We are out in this world trying to become rappers, professional athletes, and rock stars instead of leaders of the world. Stop, family, and take a good look at our predicament. We are educated by our enemies. We are fed by our enemies. We are politically led by our enemies. And we wonder what the fuck is wrong with the black community. We worship at an altar that celebrates a God created by the same monsters who enslaved our ancestors, and we do nothing about it. We tell our women to follow us into a burning house and ask her to accept the substandard living conditions of the house. When she awakens to the bullshit that we are selling and opts out of the nightmare, we then call her bitch, slut, hoe, and gold digger. To be honest, there is something noble in digging for gold, whether it be in the water, the ground, a mine, a cave, or a nigga's ass. That's right, selfish niggas. Why should a woman reduce herself to sucking your dick whenever you want to plant it in her mouth and not expect something out of it? A Don Dada knows the game of life, and he is aware that while he is pimping those politicians and blood-sucking CEOs, his woman is pimping his talent. We have to get away from the European understanding of the queen and wifey. We have to decide what a good woman is supposed to be. We have to understand that the best woman has her man's back and that she may have to do some crazy shit just to keep the lights on and food on the table for our kids. Many of our babies are not even being cared for by the black men who fathered them. We go out into this world at her expense and fuck everything walking, then fall apart the moment someone else takes a look at her. Why shouldn't she receive some attention from someone else? Truth be told, many of our sisters are being denied the simplest of pleasures from the man that they have put their hopes and dreams in. We can't continue saying to our women that we love them, that we have their backs and we will always be there. Then, when the fucking plan falls apart, say, trust in Jesus. What the fuck, nigga? Did you lose your balls and gumption all at the same time? Then order your woman to trust in the same God that you have said victimized you? Or did you send her to the white man's religion once you got tired of smashing pussy? It's amazing that most men find that their woman is becoming a nagging bitch once they want to climb up on some other woman's thick ass for a while. You see, sisters, there is nothing on earth better than pussy to a weak man except new pussy. Family, we have got to get this sexual revolution under control. The black community is producing more new cases of HIV than any other community. This is because we are raw dogging and barebacking pussy all over the community. We are producing unwanted children, aborting unplanned pregnancies, and passing STDs throughout the chocolate world like a raging forest fire. A weak man can never be a Don Dada. A Don Dada knows that everything must be appreciated in moderation. Food, drink, work, fun, and sex. He partakes in all things, but not to the detriment of himself, his family, or his people. A Don Dada is a leader. He does not wait on someone else to create his reality. He definitely does not ask the white man to oversee the community that he desires to protect. A Don Dada has his hands on the pulse of his community and is the first person in the community that the weak and suffering turn to in their time of need. They do so because the Don Dada is perceived as always making smart decisions. That perception starts with choosing the right woman to share his life with. Once a Don finds that queen, he loves her, protects her, provides for her, and allows her to be all that she can be without trying to manipulate her into being what he wants her to be. Brothers, try to provide real love for your woman. Try to be the man that she deserves and has been told would come her way most of her life. In the long run, doing this first task, like a Don Dada, creates peace in your life, and it will cause you fewer headaches. Remember, it's cheaper to keep her. Just ask Tiger and MJ. Chapter 3. Shapeshifters make bitch niggas out of cowards. Shapeshifters make bitch niggas out of cowards. The concept of shapeshifters can be found in the ancient teachings of many cultures, so the idea and the definition can vary depending on the culture or the person that uses the term. With that being said, let me explain a 21st century shapeshifter in the mind of a Don Dada. A 21st century shapeshifter is a shadowy figure who manipulates systems, people, and governments. They create conditions in a political and economic situation that affect people all over the globe. They are usually men of great wealth and resources, men who control fortunes that can cripple global markets and small governments. Shapeshifters also control elections and policies that shape the way people think on a particular subject. For example, the black man of the inner city has absolutely no reason to ever dislike a person based on culture, race, or gender. He has too much on his plate to sit around worrying about individuals who don't affect the condition that he lives in. Bitch niggas worry about other men. Bitch niggas don't consider the what ifs before they act on a particular situation. A bitch nigga is simple. He feeds off greed and the lowest forms of personal gratification. I said earlier that shapeshifters make bitch niggas out of cowards. Allow me to explain. A coward is someone that looks to avoid trouble at all costs, even when that trouble lands on his doorsteps. He and his family can be totally in the right on a confusing situation that may cause some white embarrassment. A coward will look to quell the situation as soon as possible so as not to upset the white men in his daily life. Neither his boss nor the local constabulary has any fear of cowards. These men are no help to the black community. House niggas have never been much help. However, they can become very dangerous. Once a coward comes under the influence of a shapeshifter, he becomes his bitch, or his bitch nigga. A bitch nigga is very dangerous. He's a coward who will sell out the community to help a shapeshifter. Understand that shapeshifters control vast fortunes and dignitaries. They make power moves that can destroy the lives of millions of people as a result of their evil decisions. The perfect big screen example of a bitch nigga is Samuel Jackson's portrayal of the house nigga Stephen in the movie Django. He was a coward that stood on the necks of his own people in order to make his master happy. Once his master Calvin Candy was shot, Jackson's character Stephen broke his neck to come to the aid of Calvin Candy. The fact that Calvin Candy was a powerful 19th century slave-owning, mandingo-fighting, black woman-lusting ball of conjecture made him a notorious shapeshifter. A modern-day shapeshifter is former Vice President Tricky Dick Cheney. The former chairman of the Halliburton Corporation made his way from Wyoming's local government all the way up to the White House executive staff as right-hand man to the President of the United States. This slick-assed cowboy helped the Reagan administration supply a strong-armed thug, Saddam Hussein, with enough weapons and intel to become the sole ruler of Iraq and controller of one of the world's largest oil deposits. He later shapeshifted his way into telling the world a bold-faced lie so that the Bush administration could make war on Saddam. His former company, Halliburton, received scores of non-bid contracts from the Bush administration, thereby lining the pockets of Bush and his cronies with billions in cash. Cheney used Saddam in the 1970s, then abused him 30 years later. Shapeshifters care only about the bottom line. They use simple-minded people to further an agenda. Our community is full of cowards, primed to become bitch niggas for some shapeshifter. All we can do is watch those weak-ass niggas. That's right, we should keep an eye on those sneaky motherfuckers of selfish intent. Let's wait to see if their economic life has improved for no real reason. Because if this happens, something or someone is going to get fucked up. We have a lot of work to do in the coming years, and one thing we can do without is the 18th century house nigga mentally resurfacing in a 21st century bitch nigga. A la Ben Carson. Chapter 4. Criminal-Minded. Family, we have to rid our community of the criminal-minded. I am not talking about the hustler or those who have to make a living using the underground economy. I am talking about the parasites and leeches that victimize our community by selling hard drugs, committing violent crime, and violating our women. The criminal mind is the mind that says, it is not my business when a vulture perpetrates a crime against one of our own. He protects the criminal by not exposing them for what they are. By doing this, they themselves become a part of the problem. We have a terrible problem in our community with black-on-black crime, youth-on-youth murder, and domestic violence. We watch other men beat the shit out of a black woman in broad daylight and no one does anything about it. What is worse is that today, 20 people will take out a cell phone to record the ass whipping, but not one black soldier will stand up and become a savior to the community. A Don Dada is a person that will not accept this type of behavior in his community. I say his community because we need to return to the day that we policed our own. We need to return to the day when we pick up a violent perpetrator against women and give that motherfucker a one-way trip out of the community. Fuck calling the cops for shit daddies can do. But what is most important, we need all men in our community to change their thoughts on the responsibility we all have for one another. We need to stop violent men from camping out in our abodes. You all know the motherfucker that I'm talking about. I'm speaking about that lame-ass good-for-nothing nigga that is dropping dick while simultaneously throwing blows on our sisters. It is a crime against humanity when a woman is beaten by a fucking hooligan. It is a crime against humanity when a child catches a stray bullet. It is a crime against humanity when a drug kingpin sells drugs and guns to our youth. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't give a shit about what a grown man does to himself. If anyone of adult age wants to go in their own home and snort their membranes out of their head, I personally don't care. What I do care about is that same person coming out into society after indulging in that behavior and costing someone else their life because of the effects of the shit that they were taking. As I've said, the criminal-minded is a person that participates in the destruction of our community by standing by and doing nothing. To turn your head to the violence done to innocent black folks by ignorant niggas is to invite those to our streets. If we allow bad men to violate the women and children in our community and we don't do anything to stop it, then how can we expect men of other cultures to come into our homes and respect us? If we strive for the righteous-minded, we won't live with the criminal-minded. Chapter 5. We owe our women so much more. How many black women have to die at the hands of predators before we black men say enough is enough? How many sisters have to show up with black eyes and broken noses before we black men say, fuck no? How many of our mothers, wives, and sisters have to lose their dignity doing nasty-ass things just to put food on the table for our children? As I look at the landscape of the black community, I see lost black men, broken black women, black children looking for genuine leadership and love. There are many reasons why we are in this condition as a people. Since going through them all would take another book, I prefer addressing solutions rather than harping on the negative or how we got into that state as a people. I would rather be positive and productive. So let me address how we can elevate all corners of the black community. In order to be considered a great people again, the very first responsibility of the men is to protect the woman. There is no other reality. There is no responsibility more important than that. Millions of black women are victimized by the men in their lives. They are violated by men at their jobs. They are molested by uncles and cousins. They are raped by strangers and even manhandled by local law enforcement. What are we doing about this everyday phenomenon? I recently interviewed 9 black teen women that found it all too easy to say that they were disappointed in the black men in their lives and around the country. To a person, they all say that if black women cannot be safe around her own man, then who can she be safe with? A Don Dada, that's who. Are we online thugs and community gangsters today rather than kings in the home and local soldiers with a protective attitude? Why don't more black men say that this is my community and all black women are my responsibility? We will never be able to fix the problems in the black community until we address the number one issue. That is domestic violence. As long as black men are whipping ass behind closed doors and running a motherfucking front in public, then we will always be living in an artificial world. Now, let me be clear on this point. If you are a black man or any man that beats any woman, then you are a goddamn traitor to the race. Not just the black race, but a motherfucking traitor to the human race. I have seen family members show up with bruises. I have broken up fights between men and women, and I always wonder why. Black men, why are we so weak that we have to reach out and touch someone? Now, black men are not the only purveyors of domestic violence. I would be inaccurate if I did not point out the many cases where the first punch was thrown by a woman who loses her mind thinking she can physically win a fight with a grown-ass man. Our mothers and wives should never have to surrender their position as a lady because some asshole has pissed them off. Domestic violence is a terrible problem in the black community. Our children see mama getting her ass whipped night after night in many black homes. There are many cases where mama wants to leave but is afraid to do so for a multitude of reasons. Mainly, the fear of not being able to feed the babies and keep a roof over their heads. Sisters, believe me, there are few men of any race who lose their minds only once and strike out. Most of them will continue to do so. You can't fix an abuser. It is a character flaw. One way you can tell it's a weak-ass character flaw is because he will not strike another man for the same reason he goes upside your head. Cowards find it easy to strike a woman out of anger, but let an opposing force present any kind of resistance, and that same chump who beats a female will quickly negotiate a nonviolent truce with the man. Weak men care only about the things and people that they can control. It is too bad that this is the example that many of our boys will learn from. Domestic battery is a learned and inbred behavior. Little boys watch powder-puff men kick ass in the household and grow up thinking that this is an acceptable tool to use for relationship building. Let me tell you something, little brother. She is neither your property nor your slave. She is a free human being. She has the right to do what she wants and with whom she chooses. I say this because jealousy and cheating are right at the top of the list when it comes to the reasons that men and women strike out in fits of rage. Listen, brothers, this is very important for you to hear. It is only pussy. I am sorry to be so blunt, but the truth is the truth. It is only coochie, and she can give it to whomever she chooses. If it hurts your feelings because she chose to rub her kitty cat up to another man's shaft, then you need to reevaluate what made you choose her in the first place and find another woman. I don't care how much you love her and she loves you. The moment that another person is brought into the equation sexually, things will never be the same. So do yourself a favor and find another lover. A woman is usually as good as the man in her life. Most black women are raised to think that the man is to be the king of the house and that she is to follow her man. The reality is that we have not given our women enough of the kings that they deserve. I don't know a woman that does not enjoy security above all things. Why are we not teaching security as the first lesson for our sons at home, in church, at the mosque, and at our schools? I ask this because if you cannot protect your woman, then she does not need you. She can do bad all by herself. Everything else is secondary to protecting our women. We need to learn to love them above the deities that we've created to worship. Only then will they have the true value we need in our heart to sacrifice our life for theirs. Brothers, listen to me good. There is no way that you can love your chosen gods if you are not protecting his or her greatest gifts to the planet. You can be the best lover, the greatest moneymaker, and the sweetest person in the world, but if you cannot or will not protect her life with your life, then you are an empty vessel. You are no better than the pretty Christmas tree ornaments that we pull out of the closet every Thanksgiving and put away on January 1st. You represent the past bootlicking Negro who was too afraid to protect his love. The Negro who's praying for God to do what he can do himself. Praying for God to handle your tormentor is the slave's dream, a social experiment that has failed us for 400 plus years. That kind of nigga is carpet lint that we have to sweep out the door like dust in the wind. We need a new, reinvigorated black man that says, my mama, my wifey, and my daughter are my future, and I will kill any motherfucker who attempts to violate or take away my future. Our women have been the backbone of the black community since we walked off those slave ships in the 15th century. They are tired and in need of a black man that defends them with the fury of Pharaoh Moses I or Shaka and the Zulu nation. The black woman is the mother of civilization and the goddess of fertility. They are our most prized possession, and they deserve better than we have given them. So, this is a call to arms, black man. Stand up for our women, and let's start fixing our community one home at a time. Chapter 6. They got something for your ass. I remember as a young teen running around the streets with my friend at all hours of the night, looking to have fun away from the watchful eyes of our parents. Truth be told, most of our parents did not know that we were out running the streets. Most of our parents were asleep because they had to work the next morning. Now, we were traditional teens, mischievous, yet non-threatening. We chased girls and looked for an adult who was cool enough to buy us beer. Malt liquor was the choice of the day. Schlitz malt liquor, to be exact. That is another cancerous mistake of our youth, malt liquor. But I digress. Thus, I begin this chapter to explain that I understand the call of the wild. I know the pull of the nightlife. I remember the freedom and feeling of bliss from being out in the world with my friends as a teenager. Believe me when I say that all young men crave this unmonitored freedom. Young brother, when I say they got something for your ass, I mean it as a cautionary tale to be mindful of careless behavior. I can recall running from the police for absolutely no reason. It was what black boys were taught as kids. Our parents would say, I don't care what happened, run. Run to a family member's or a friendly neighbor's home. Our parents knew the history of black boys caught by American police. So our parents didn't want to take a chance on finding their son hanging from a tree or shot in the head after being released from jail by the cops. Thousands of black boys have been murdered and lynched by law enforcement in this country. My mother is from Tennessee, and she saw the poor treatment of boys her age when she went to school. My mother would use that personal experience to help shape how I was supposed to deal with the police in my life. I have seen cops at their worst. I have seen the other side of a prison cell. I know the ass whipping that occurs to inmates in these prison systems around the country. So, when I say that they got something for your ass, that is exactly what I mean. The prison industrial complex is the modern day slavery. In most states like Georgia, it's the most profitable industry. Believe me when I say that human chattel is not a new game. As far back as the first ancient dynasties, there has been human cargo. Most ancient societies prospered from slaves, prisoners, or captives. The best way to show a profit is to acquire a workforce that will do the job dirt cheap. If you cannot find cheap labor, then one must manufacture a cheap labor. Hence the creation of the prison industrial complex. In America, the population has set minimum standards for a company to pay an employee. And even though $7.50 an hour is a minuscule amount, it is still higher than most countries. So, how does an American company make the highest profit possible if their labor cost is out of control? The prison industrial complex. That's how. It is not a coincidence that this country has built more prisons in the past 50 years than they have built colleges. The facts are that in 1969, there were less than 200,000 prisoners in the whole country. Today, there are more than 2.5 million inmates doing time in America's prisons and jails. Pay attention, young brothers. There are many reasons for the rise in prison population. The loss of black farmland and black farmers, the destruction of social programs under the Reagan administration, and the three strikes law under the Clinton administration, to name a few. We can add the poor educational system and fatherless homes, yet the main reason for the explosion in the prison population is the influx of drugs, guns, and liquor in the black community. If you blow a man's mind with drugs and alcohol, he spends a great deal of his life making bad decisions. We purchase these mind-altering substances and consume them in an attempt to escape our current situation. The fact is, there is no temporary escape from life's problems. We have to become better at dealing with all the frustrations that the world presents to us as black people. The prison system in this country serves two purposes. One is to put away all deviants. The other is to line the pockets of fat cats who want to capitalize on cheap labor. Prison is the best place to create slaves because most Americans support the idea of convicts pulling hard labor for no pay. Add the fact that over 60% of the national prison population is African American, and it should be obvious to our children that prison is a place to avoid. Again, when I say that they got something for your ass, black man, that is exactly what I mean. It's a place of torture, misery, and lost souls. It is a place where you can lose all of your dignity. I remember a convict that worked in the prison kitchen. He would sneak sandwiches that he made back to the other inmates at the dorm. This was his way of making cigarette money. His only way to traffic the sandwiches were to place them in his underwear, then wrap his apron around his waist to hide the bulge. It should not come as a surprise that he would sell 10 sandwiches at a time. Can you imagine eating food that was just next to another nigga's nuts? That's right, hidden under a man's penis? How about sneaking milk back to your prison dorm and placing it in the toilet water to keep it cool? I'll bet people can't conceive of drinking that milk, yet it happens every day in prisons around this country. How do you think you would feel if you were sleeping and your bunkmate was in his bunk directly above you, masturbating to the latest nude pic he received on the prison black market? I am sure that most of you have never contemplated that level of disgust. The crazy thing about it is that it is all normal prison behavior that once incarcerated, you too, little brother, will grow accustomed to. There are hundreds of ways that a civilized man or woman can lose their dignity while serving time in America's prisons. It is like existing in a world of chaos where no one knows you are alive and no one really even cares. We need our youth to reclaim their dignity and begin to train to be the leaders of the next generation. We want to sweep the filth from our street corners. We need a new generation of black teachers and ma'atic ministers to lead us in a new direction. Life is too short and too precious to waste wandering aimlessly. Young black man, please wake up, little brother, because they got something for your ass. Chapter 7. Don't shoot mine, motherfucker. My goal as a storyteller is to try and bring the truth out of an overlooked situation or tragic death. I try to bring awareness to the general public about some of the murders and social tragedies that are plaguing minorities and poor people of this nation. Each day, I research the country's papers and court cases to unearth a few overlooked instances. I want to know the meaning behind these violent killings that blacks deal with on a daily basis. I look for the case that is shocking and senseless. I look for the act so unbelievable that it becomes impossible to turn away. For example, the unthinkable Philadelphia murders of Portia Bennett and Destiny Wright. These two cases have troubled me for years. Both of these angels are black babies that we did not protect. They were killed in situations that were frightening and less than humane. Portia Bennett was starved, beaten, and suffocated in her aunt's house by her aunt's boyfriend. Portia's mentally incompetent mother left her babies in this wretched apartment that was not safe enough for raising a barrel full of diamondback rattlesnakes. The results of leaving Portia in this abode were heartbreaking. Then there was Destiny Wright. Destiny was spending the night at a friend's slumber party when a teenage boy and friend of the family's lifted her little body and carried her out into a wooded area where he then did God knows what to that baby before killing her. This person, who I refuse to name, even participated in the community search for little Destiny. I hate to think about the many children who die violently at the hands of the monsters living in our communities. Both of the men that committed these crimes against Portia and Destiny were black men who had no sense of community pride, heritage, or responsibility. They were savages with their inner demons out of control. Something is broken in a man or woman who tortures and kills a baby. These are people operating on a level lower than that of a wild pack of wolves. The killer of Destiny was equivalent to that of a lone wolf. He displayed no visible inclinations towards murder, but the killer of Portia Bennett was a full-blown monster that violated this baby in a different way each day. She was 3 years old when her dead body was found, yet she weighed less than 30 pounds. 2 black babies tragically lost at the hands of black men who were supposed to protect them from all manner of evil. Instead, they became the brutal incarnation of death. What is wrong with us, black men? When did we lose that armor of defense? When did we relinquish our honor? When did we stop protecting our community? Above all things, I want to know why we are afraid to be the protectors we were born to be. It is incumbent upon men of every nationality and community to defend their women and children. I have begun to challenge the wisdom of a nonviolent lifestyle and forgiving one's enemy while they still live. Living nonviolently works when the opposition respects the concept or the law. What we are seeing today is a world where blacks are murdered by whites and police, and there is no justice for the family or the victim. I truly believe that the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama on September 15, 1963, was the tipping point in modern black-white relationships. I believe that this event, above all others, etched into the mind of the Southern racist and Northern placist the belief that black men are essentially weak and timid. I truly believe that in the heart of the racist, he sees the black man as weak, even when he teaches his children that we are violent and dangerous. The bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church was a devilish crime. The murder of 4 little black girls attending Sunday school in a house of God was, for most people, even arch bigots, a step too far and an unthinkable crime, even for a Klansman. Yet, it happened, and black men did nothing in response. The message was received by sadist white men and crooked law enforcement officers. That message was clear. Black men will not come together to fight or defend anything. If you can kill a man's babies and he goes on with his life as if nothing has happened, then he is a pacifist and not a warrior. Pacifists are sheep, and sheep get slaughtered. That is the impression left by our Birmingham fathers by not personally killing the monsters that murdered our babies. If black men in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963 could not muster up the anger and hatred it takes to avenge the killings of Carol Robertson, Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, and Denise McNair, 4 innocent baby girls who were just attending church, then there is nothing collectively and strategically that they would kill for. Had black men went to the homes of the bombers Robert Chambliss, Bobby Frank Cherry, Herman Cash, and Thomas E. Blanton Jr., strung them up by their motherfucking feet and set their evil asses on fire, I truly believe that these brothers would have sent a clear message to those that wanted to harm our families. Don't come over here with that bullshit again. Our fathers should have killed those bombers and also the killers of Emmett Till. We should have gone to the courthouse and taken the Scottsboro boys out of jail. Instead, we allowed the Southern justice system to destroy the lives of 9 innocent boys. I wonder if they ever forgave us black men for being so weak in their hour of need. We have been a people who have had to wait on justice. If you are a people that wait for your tormentors to provide you with a measure of justice, then you are a sick people. Rarely are we wrong in our demands for equal treatment and respect. No one ever stands up and says the black man has been treated fairly in America. Even the Klan would agree with that position. They acknowledge that we have been historically treated as subhuman. It's just that the Klan does not care, nor do they worry about how we feel about it. Yes, America in 2016 is the same America that existed in 1963. Our churches are still being bombed. Our children are still being beaten in the streets. Our mothers are still crying uncontrollably, and our fathers still stand around jaw-jacking and not doing shit about it except marching, singing, and begging the just us system to close the gaping wounds we incur every time one of ours is killed by one of theirs. 50 years of progress, 50 years of telling our children that they are equal to their white neighbors. Men who belong to a hidden society that can't wait to show black folks that we are not equal in the eyes of the law. When the Twin Towers were bombed on 9/11, America went over the ocean to Afghanistan to get revenge. 3,000 Americans were dead, mostly white people. This government spared no expense to get some payback. We are now 15 years removed from 9/11, and America is still over in Afghanistan, among other places, kicking ass. Do you see the difference in response, black man? They kill our babies and we march and pray. But if someone kills white folks, well, to hell with Jesus and all that praying shit, because all the white man wants to do at that time is some ass whipping. And I agree with them. If you kill mine, then it's on. When a social crime is committed against black people, the wheels of justice seem to come to a complete stop. We watch police on camera killing our boys and getting off scot-free. Our churches get bombed and no one is convicted. And the presidential candidates call us super predators and lazy people who are living in the worst conditions in history. What do? We do nothing about it, not even run our own candidate. There is absolutely no difference today than there was in 1963. We played the Jesus prayer card, the nonviolence card, the brotherhood card. We have been as peaceful as a group of people can be. Now, my question is, why not try the Malcolm X way, black man? He said, if they shoot us, we settle court right there in the streets. What is the difference? What would happen if black men start shooting the people that shoot our unarmed children? Is it possible that police will think twice before pulling the trigger and murdering our sons and daughters? As things now stand, there is no punishment for killing our babies. So, what if the cop's life was on a running hourglass the moment he kills an unarmed black man? What if he had to walk around wondering when some upset father was going to punch his ticket? I believe that within months, there will be no more senseless shooting. My personal position on this subject is simple. I believe in MAD, mutually assured destruction. If you kill my unarmed baby, I will avenge that death. Now, the truth is that I want to live in a world where we all respect each other. I want to watch my children grow up and my grandchildren become young adults. I want to be my brother's keeper. I want to be a leader in my community and a man of peace. But please believe that no one gets to kill my unarmed child and keep their life. With that, I say to all trigger-happy people who value being on this planet, please don't shoot mine, motherfucker. I can assure you there are not enough people in the world to keep me calm or to keep you safe. Chapter 8. Pull your pants up, dumb nigga. Pull your pants up, dumb nigga. Now, family, I truly hate to call our children dumb and nigga in the same sentence, but the truth is, you have to be some kind of ignorant ass nigga to walk around the streets with your pants hanging around the crease of your butt cheeks so the whole world can see your natural black ass. What in the world has happened to our boys and girls? Why has dressing ignorantly and acting uncouthly in public become a cultural earmark? The history of the sagging pants can be traced back to the sissies in the prison system. Passive homosexuals wore their pants sagging to reveal to the population that they were homosexual and available. It is a prison practice that still stands today. Why would young boys want to adopt a prison counterculture dress code and promote it in society? Why do we think it is cool to sag? When did we begin to drop our pants and flaunt our ignorance to this degree? I believe the rebellious behavior can be traced back to the early 90s and the exponential rise in the prison population under President Bill Clinton. The Three Strikes Law was designed to send drug dealers to prison for a long time. What happened was teenage gangbangers got caught up in the war on drugs. The next thing we knew, our prisons were being overrun with teen boys serving man-sized sentences. Now, considering that teens are rebellious by nature and that so many of them had to visit the inside of a prison in the 90s, it is only wise to connect the dots. Prior to the 90s, we never saw black men wearing tight pants and revealing their ass in public. No black man that I knew wanted to get a yeast infection from wearing clothing that his sister was going to be wearing one day. The 1980s was the Morris Day and the Time generation. Morris Day told black men that he wore baggies to have room for himself. His actual words were, "Ain't nothing like a fresh pair of baggies." Baggy pants was the staple dress for the men in the 80s and the #1 fashion apparel. In the 90s, the drug trade devastated so many U.S. communities that children hooked on crack started robbing their own parents. It was so bad that most American lawmakers and the black clergy were calling on the president to do something about it. It is this time in history that his political wife, 2016 Democratic nominee for president Hillary Clinton, came up with the super predator title for black teenage boys. It was this kind of fear that ran rampant throughout the country. It was this national fear that sent many black and Latino boys to prison in their teens and exposed these minors to the harsh reality of prison and the dress code of the sissy. I am not sure if these young men actually knew the reason why the prison jump-off, the sissy, wore their pants this way. What is true is that this jailhouse fashion trend clearly reaches the streets in the 90s after so many young boys were sent to prison in America. The low point of the ass-showing phenomenon happened recently on the internet, where a group of Q dogs representing Omega Psi Phi fraternity were caught on film dancing together in what could be described as a butt-naked stomp show, or as Bernie Mac would say, buck-naked stomp show. The video went viral, embarrassing generations of Omegas. This video has also forced the black community to take a good look at what we have allowed our children to get away with while in public. Each young black man that is seen dressed in this manner is a direct reflection of the work that black men have not put in at home. If the Don Dada was present today and influencing the community, would our boys be dressed like a gaggle of sensitive hush puppies begging for attention? "Ooh, look at my perfectly round ass, everybody." It has reached a point where we have 25-year-old fathers that have dressed like this their entire life and see nothing wrong when their sons walk out into the streets looking like a preening cockatoo. What's worse is the poor judgment these miscreants display when they show up to a job interview dressed in this manner. I can assure you, it does happen, and it happens a lot. Family, there is no way we can compete in an ever-changing economy until we put a stop to self-destructive behavior. No self-respecting businessman is going to hire a young man that dresses in this manner. If we are not in the institutions where change is occurring, then we will be the last to benefit from those changes. The way a man dresses says something about him as a person. And I can tell you that there will never come a time when a congressman, a governor, or a sitting president is in the Oval Office sagging. We have to end this dress code, even if it means introducing legislation. I am not against requiring these young men to clean up our parks and streets, paint our abandoned buildings, and work in senior homes if that is what it takes to stop this ignorant ass, no pun intended, behavior. We have to bring class and dignity back to our community and do it through our young people. That means confronting the lost ones who have no manners and don't care about history, legacy, and heritage. We have to save them all, because if we don't, we have failed them and we have failed ourselves. Chapter 9. Fair doesn't exist, so stop saying it. When I hear black men say the word fair, I become irritated. I want to walk over to him and say, "What the fuck is fair?" Fair is a noun. It is a place that has parlor games, bumper cars, and an apple pie baking contest. There is absolutely no such thing as fair when it comes to determining the inequities in the American justice system. We are the children of the American slave, so we should know better than to appeal to the morality or compassion of the descendants of our kidnappers. Here is a fact on fair. The greatest social experiment in human history was carried out on our people by religious monsters with zest and fervor. Knowing the terrible ordeal that the black man has suffered at the hand of our white brothers in America, have we ever received a formal apology from those slavery advocating rapists? No, we have not, nor will we ever receive one with any teeth in it to help alleviate the social issues created by slavery. We need to move on from childish terms like the word fair. In fact, we need to stop using that word around our children completely. The word fair implies that there is a set universal rule that all men are governed by, and it implies that all men intend to respect one another purely out of human decency. We cannot embrace the vision of a world of righteous men when we all know that the rules to the game of life are totally subjective and manipulated to serve the more affluent people of this world. Is it fair that less than 1% of the world's population controls over 80% of the global natural resources? Is it fair that 60% of the U.S. prison system is populated by black men who make up less than 6% of its citizenship? Is it fair that the former bootlegger and underworld associate Joseph Kennedy was allowed to take his ill-gotten gain from illegal whiskey sales to become a gazillionaire and future ambassador for this nation while starting a political dynasty that has spanned 100 years? Papa Kennedy was allowed to do this while so-called black kingpins and underworld figures like Bumpy Johnson, Frank Lucas, and Ike Atkinson spent the majority of their adult lives fighting the government to stay out of prison. These black underworld associates are never given the opportunity to clean up their money. They're not given tax breaks, legal loopholes, and private armies to form a major conglomerate like the diamond thief Cecil Rhodes. The word fair is a built-in excuse for failure when things don't go as planned. We hear things like, I lost my business to the government because it was underfunded and the banks would not give me a loan. That was not fair because they gave a white man a loan who was in the same situation as me. We hear comments like, man, that official cheated us in the playoff game. He kept calling penalties on all of our big plays. He was not fair. What about the fact that President Obama unsuccessfully spent countless hours trying to get his agenda passed through Congress because the Republican Congress simply would not let his ideas gain any traction for fear that they might actually work to the credit of a black man? My position is, who the fuck told any of us that Obama would get a fair shake? Only a nincompoop would look at the makeup of today's U.S. Congress and believe that Obama would receive a fair chance at making this country even-handed for all of its citizens. President Obama got what all black men get when dealing with an invisible adversary hell-bent on keeping true power in the hands of those dark and mysterious billionaire figures. Those men who frequent clandestine smoke-filled rooms to privately discuss how to influence the masses while they wield true power around this world. The word fair is a carrot for the naive, an unachievable idea created for those who don't have shit and want their tormentors to feel sympathetic to their cause. You never hear the affluent of this planet using the word fair. You never heard President John Kennedy say it was unfair for his father and Chicago mobster to conspire and steal the presidential election from Richard Nixon. Tricky Dick Nixon also knew that he was clipped in the election, and America never heard him come out and say that he was jacked or that it was not fair. Vice President Al Gore won the popular vote for the presidential election in 2000 and was murked by the Bush campaign in Florida, thereby making George W. Bush the 43rd president of America. Everyone and their granddaddy knows that the Republican political machine conspired to illegally snatch that election from Vice President Gore. Did anyone hear Gore talk about an unfair process in his concession speech? Hell no, because Gore is one of the haves in this world, and even when he disagrees with his brethren, he will never side with the have-nots. They play by a different set of rules established for the rich and powerful, the greedy, the vicious, the monstrous, and their descendants. These people let the simple-minded peasants sit around and complain about fairness while they go about their way, murdering, plundering, raping, and stealing. The word fair is a one-word philosophical platform that incites deep passions for those who feel they have been wronged in some way. Rarely do those who victimize the meek ever get what is coming to them. So, we need to retire the word fair and begin a new socio-political mantra. That mantra is, fuck what you heard, I don't need your judgment or sympathy. I will create my own life plan and judge myself by the rules that I set up to govern my life. Then my tormentors can judge the results of my ideological transformation, and they can tell me later if it was fair. Chapter 10. We need to bring back charm school. The fall of the black man in stature and in the black community has had detrimental effects on all of black society. No strain is more visible than the one on the faces reflecting the emotions of black women. Never in history has a group of women become so utterly devastated by their own men than the beautiful black woman. Saying that black men have let their women down in the last 50 years is an understatement. We have lost control of our youth. Our teenage men do not fear their fathers. Hell, many of them don't even know their fathers, especially in a nuclear family. The embarrassing truth is that black men seem to fear our teen boys and their lack of control. I'm not saying fear in a macho sense of bravado. I have bigger nuts than that. I mean, we seem to fear the unknown in our teen boys. So we walk past these emotionally damaged young men who are creating mayhem and destruction in our communities and saying to ourselves, that's not my business. Brothers, what happened to I am my brother's keeper and it takes a village? How did we get to a point where the actions of a few bad actors have become more important than the direction of our nation? In the last 50 years, we've adopted stupid-ass childish sayings that have hurt our women and our overall community. Sayings like, no snitching, Captain Save-A-Hoe, and I don't love them hoes, are simplistic lyrical jabs used in hip-hop primarily as fodder for other rap stars. On the surface, they really are nothing more than juvenile lyrics similar to playing the dozens. The problems arise when our youth hear their hip-hop heroes spouting ignorant sayings, whether recorded or during live performances and or interviews, and these empty sayings take on a life of their own and begin to negatively manifest themselves in ways we could never have foreseen. Our young men were raised by their mamas while their young fathers languished in prison. At the same time, other men who wanted to have sexual congress with their mamas conducted themselves in a manner which gave life to these childish hip-hop sayings. I don't love this hoe, even though I want to fuck her. The truth is that rarely will another man take care of your children as you will. But if you're in prison and his goal is to fuck your boo, then your son is just another obstacle in his way that needs to be vanquished. Caught up in this anti-growth vacuum created by the black man in the past 50 years are the black women. Women forced to be mothers and fathers. Women forced to be the homemaker and breadwinner. Women forced to be protectors of the family while trying to scratch out some kind of personal life for themselves. Trust me, brothers, the biblical phrase, I will see you through the eyes of your children, is the glare upon us now. The young black woman has not only descended into the hell created for her by the black man, she is now a willing participant in the systematic destruction of our people. We have black women running around in our communities without an ounce of self-esteem, class, dignity, or culture. We have young women more verbally abusive than a U.S. Army drill sergeant. This system has created an environment that celebrates public fighting by young women. It is a tragedy that appearing to be tough has replaced the desire to be a lady. We have a community where our women take off their clothing in public, grease up their faces, and pull out their weaves in hopes of gaining an advantage in a public fight. The epitome of self-hatred. For those who did not get my last comment, I just said that many black women have arrived at a point where losing a fight is a greater embarrassment than being publicly naked in front of strange men. We have arrived at a time when our young women are fighting over a cowardly, toothless, unemployed vagabond with no socially redeemable qualities at all. Men who couldn't spell the word sex if you spotted them the letter E. Yet, they seem to be having an awful lot of sex with these women who can't find a classroom, let alone display a drop of class. We need to bring back male training and charm school. The type of male training where our young boys are spoon-fed a social and historic diet of responsibility, history, culture, and pride. We need to reopen charm schools for our young girls, a place where the beauty of a gentle touch, a kind word, and a loving warm smile are applauded and celebrated. We need to take the example of our great former First Lady Michelle Obama and show our young women what it means to be classy and fearless. Michelle had millions of people stabbing her in the back, talking about her and her husband. Did she ever lose her grace or demeanor? Did she ever allow her family's enemies to pull her down to their level? Hell no, she didn't. She showed the world how to take the anger and pettiness of haters and make them her footstools without ever throwing a punch or raising her voice. Family, we need to begin to change our communities for the sake of our children and our seniors. The best place to start is male training sessions for the young black males and elegant charm schools for our young ladies. We have lost a generation of young women who are uncouth and quite cynical. We need to reassess the direction in which our communities are headed. While each of us needs to take a personal stake in changing our course, a great start is charm school. Trust me, our children need it. Chapter 11. Homicidal Thoughts. I've spent decades watching our young men become more and more violent among themselves and toward others. It has gotten so bad that many of them would rather go out in a gun-firing blaze of glory than to find reasons for living. What has happened that we can't see emotionally damaged teens waltzing around the hood without ever getting them the necessary mental and emotional help. Some are so disturbed that their loved ones hate to see them coming. We have coddled them to the point that many of them can't fathom success on their own. Many of these boys live with their mama and don't see the stress in her life while she's working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. The 2016 murder rate in Chicago, Illinois was so high that it was equivalent to raising children in a war zone. Black boy after black boy murdering each other in senseless crimes, revenge killings, and gang initiations. In many cases, gangs or subgroups of gangs operate as the only family that many of these young men will ever have. So, watching a loved one getting gunned down is not just emotionally devastating, it becomes the mental trigger to impose self-inflicted justice upon the violator. Gang killings are not complicated. In fact, they are the simplest crimes with which to place a motive. Most of the brothers and sisters that live in these toxic communities have to live in fear that one day a stray bullet has their name on it. We have all heard the horror stories of the wrong person killed in a drive-by. These are stories of crime perpetrated by children with homicidal thoughts. Crime in the inner city is the same as crime in every economically devastated community around this country. This is another area hard hit in the black community because we no longer have the practicing Don Dada. We did not have murder rates in our communities when there were men who watched out for the community. The loss of the policy business is one of the greatest economic crimes in the history of the world. That's right. The theft of the policy business has contributed to the rise in local crime and murder in the black community. Back in the 1930s, many black communities around the country invented the multi-million-dollar business called policy. It was later stolen from black policy kings and Don Dadas by the Italian mob through violent tactics and corrupt government officials who would prosecute the powerful black policy kings. The mob would later call their new ill-gotten gain the numbers racket. Over the next 20 years, states like Illinois and the federal government also discovered the millions generated by the black policy business, so they too got into this game of chance. Once whites began to run the policy operation, they would call it respectable. They did this with the PR campaign. They sold the benefits of policy to the American dreamer by saying that it would create wealth. That was all it took for poor whites. The idea that this money would create individual wealthy white men was the carrot, even if the odds were 1,000,000 to 1 for the players. The politicians also spoke of fixing damaged roads and their broken municipalities. These governmental crooks also changed the name to the lottery. Today, millions of Americans work for the lottery and billions are pumped into municipalities across the country. Imagine how many young black men in Chicago today could be numbers runners and local supervisors in their community had we not lost the policy business. Millions of jobs for our people while creating community growth, a thriving economy at home. Why was it crime when blacks start and operated multi-million-dollar companies like we did with the policy business? Yet when our white counterparts join the party late, may I say, it soon becomes good business to be a gambler. It is that criminalistic mentality that feeds the hatred so many of our young brothers deal with on a daily basis. America destroys all the business that create transferable wealth in our communities. Next, the greedy and wealthy will use laws to steal from us, like the laws of eminent domain, to redline a district that becomes valuable. They use this law to steal property. They take the land from black families, eliminating the possibility of property transfer and the benefits that come with maintaining intergenerational wealth. Too many of young brothers who feel overwhelmed by the bleak prospects become violent in their daily lives. They do not know how the game is stacked against them, but they know they are not playing on equal ground. They can't get into a negotiating room with their true tormentors, so these young men lash out at the women in their lives in domestic violence. Many do this sad crime until they finally pick up the steel hammer and kill another brother. I said that the motive for these murders are so simple, and they are. What I did not say was that the mechanism behind much of their pain is poverty, despair, lack of opportunity in education, all social ills prevalent in poor communities. Not to mention that there is always that history of racism that will never go away. After watching Donald Trump run the most racist campaign in recent history to win the White House, many blacks are wondering just how many white folks think like Donald Trump. The truth is, race is the ultimate dividing factor in this country. It fosters all the ill will on every side. It shelters the mean-spiritedness, lies, and false information that people subscribe to in every corner of American history. We have a game in which the wealthy are able to change the rules as they go on. We have fatherless communities and single-parent homes that produce violent and uneducated black teens. We have a police mentality that believes in shoot first and ask questions later. We also have a culture where payback is an art. These young men were not born with homicidal thoughts. It was taught by others who learned that killing one another is an acceptable solution to resolving a personal problem. We have a lot of work to do if we are to reverse this terrible trend in our communities, and it is going to take all capable men looking to do better for themselves and the community if we are to win. Chapter 12. Don't pimp hoes, nigga. Pimp CEOs. A Don Dada does not pimp hoes. He's too busy pimping CEOs. I make that statement because we have too many small-minded brothers in our community that want the easy way out or through a situation. The word pimping is a metaphor for hustling and grinding. A lazy street corner pimp or online predator takes advantage of young women that are in need of real help. Some of these scallywags portray themselves as saviors or friend. They do this with the promise to make life so much better for these ladies. A Don Dada is a player in the game of life. He is a local boss man. A Don Dada is a master businessman and protector of the women in his community. A Don Dada is one that hates the thought of the meek and poor being taken advantage of by local riffraff or invading agents that want only to con or manipulate the suffering of the black community. A Don Dada may be a preacher, a businessman, a local merchant, a numbers man, or a community volunteer. The beauty about one who is a Don Dada is that he cares for others as if they are his family, and he uses all of his influence to help the single moms and impoverished children in the black world. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale were the founders of the Black Panther Party. They were two young men that watched the local police constantly violating the young men and women of their community, and they decided to do something about it. Neither of these young men had money or position in the black community when they decided to change the world. They did so by becoming Don Dadas. They took on the responsibilities of leading young men and women who had nothing of their own to celebrate. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense became a beacon in the dark in the 1960s and 70s. It became a national movement that helped black men and women find a sense of purpose. The Black Panther Party became the pride of the black community, the blueprint for educating our children, and made the entire black nation aware of police corruption at the highest levels. Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton were not the only Don Dadas to rise from the ranks of the BPP. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were two young men that had Chicago on fire with revolutionary zeal in the late 1960s until the Chicago police murdered them in their sleep. Both men were proud, strong, and determined to eliminate hate and division in the black community. They both reached out to other communities with the goal of healing gang division. This effort helped Fred and Mark to form the Rainbow Coalition, a concept that has helped Jesse Jackson to become famous the world over. Fred Hampton started the Rainbow Coalition in Chicago in 1967. After Fred's murder, Reverend Jesse Jackson organized Rainbow Push Coalition, also in Chicago. Fred's mantra in the 1960s was, "I am a revolutionary." After his death, Jesse Jackson borrowed that concept and said to the world, "I am somebody," a slogan that would take him to the top of his political career and the Democratic Party in 1984. Don Dadas care about the black community. They care about the direction of the black world. Don Dadas try to negotiate deals that benefit the black community. Malcolm X was a Don Dada. Elijah Muhammad was a Don Dada. Muhammad Ali was a Don Dada. Dr. Martin Luther King was a Don Dada. Barack Obama was the ultimate Don Dada. He rose from community leader to the most powerful man in the world by helping poor people organize on the south side of Chicago. Don't get it twisted. Don Dadas are not always the obvious leaders in the communities. Many men and women who function in the underworld of American life are also Don Dadas. For example, there was Don Dada Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, the numbers entrepreneur and underworld crime figure. There was his boss, Madam Queen Stephanie St. Clair. She too was a numbers queen and a Don Dada. She was the Black Lottery Queen. Another Don Dada named Casper Holstein, along with Madam Queen, helped create the American lottery, which black people used to call policy. These two underworld figures helped finance the Harlem Renaissance that gave us great thinkers like John Henrik Clarke, W.E.B. Du Bois, Arturo Schomburg, Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, and countless other black intellectuals that reshaped the black man's consciousness. A Don Dada is a necessary figure in the black community. He is the power base that gives the community courage. We are a community devoid of great black leadership. We continue to look to those prosperity pimps who bilk the black community out of millions every year. Pastors like Eddie Long and Creflo Dollar are religious leaders who have the black men under their influence that focus on the economics of faith rather than social justice for these suffering in the black world. If the Bible is accurate, then Jesus was a Don Dada. His stories told of a courageous man who spoke truth to power. He taught of righteousness flowing from every corner of the world. The teachings in the Quran show Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, as a Don Dada, a leader who spoke out against injustice. Prophet Muhammad's first command to his people was to stop the practice of infanticide. Prior to the advent of Islam, in the Arabian Peninsula, each family could only have one daughter, and families would kill, many did so out of poverty, the second and third daughter. It was Prophet Muhammad that stopped this barbaric practice, cementing himself in the history books as a Don Dada. A Don Dada is a triple OG, someone 3 times as courageous as the other men in his circle. A Don Dada is someone who hates injustice and works tirelessly to eliminate ruthless behavior in our community. A Don Dada hates men that violate women. He speaks out against domestic violence, and he's not above fixing those situations himself. Don Dadas do not wait on the white world to do what needs to be done. They help provide for the poor, the weak, and the suffering. They help defend against the evil invaders that try to reduce the value of our property by gentrification. They stand as a strong male example to those young brothers who do not have fathers in the home. A Don Dada is a triple OG and the needed solution for most of the social ills that plague the black community.